A pop group that disbanded almost immediately after reaching fame? British anarchists that took over a decade to release a hit. Here's what became of the one-hit wonders of the 1990s. Marcy Playground's hit Sex and Candy caught listeners' attention with its mellow sound and peculiar lyrics about disco lemonade, sending the song to #1 on the Billboard Alternative Airplay chart in 1997 and #8 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart in 1998. The song was everywhere, and it looked as though Marcy Playground was poised to be a staple band in the post-grunge scene. They even toured with bands like Fastball, Toad the Wet Sprocket, and Everclear. Alas, their follow-up singles failed to gain steam. Their sudden success also contributed to some burnout. In an interview with News Times, lead singer John Wozniak said, "It just got to the point where it was too overwhelming." That's not to say the band stopped making music altogether, though. They released 4 albums following their debut. Their latest record, Lunch, Recess, and Detention, was released in 2012, and the band is still actively touring. However, Sex and Candy remains their most successful song to date. British alternative rockers The Verve achieved major success in the UK and in the States with 1998's Bittersweet Symphony, a track that reached #12 on the US Billboard Hot 100 chart. The song earned the band a Grammy nomination in 1999, and its music video, featuring singer Richard Ashcroft practicing some awful sidewalk etiquette, earned several VMA nominations, though Ashcroft later said that he thought the video was almost too popular.
For me as a musician, I put so much work into the track. I was a bit concerned that the visual was almost outweighing the song.
Regardless, the band's big hit had come, and it seemed as though more hits were on the horizon. Alas, none of their follow-up releases would surpass Bittersweet Symphony in popularity. So what happened to the Verve? Well, according to MTV, they broke up in 1999, got back together briefly in 2007, then broke up for good in 2009. Reportedly, their working relationship was tumultuous, and getting sued didn't help matters. According to the BBC, the song was the subject of a complicated copyright lawsuit brought on by former Rolling Stones manager Alan Klein, which resulted in the band losing their royalties and publishing rights to the tune. Those royalties were eventually returned to Ashcroft in 2019. However, if your 90s heart is dying for a Verve reunion, don't hold your breath. According to NME, some band members don't even talk to one another anymore. If you went through a breakup in the late 90s, there's a good chance you had Natalie Imbruglia's cover of Torn playing on repeat in your Walkman. The Australian actress turned singer achieved global recognition at the tender age of 22 after the angsty pop tune took the top spot on Billboard's Adult Pop Airplay chart in 1998 for 14 weeks. Eventually, however, the run slowed and the Torn era came to an end. According to the Irish Times, Imbruglia was feeling the pressure to deliver a dynamite follow-up. She released several albums throughout the 2000s and into the 2010s, but none of her tracks reached the same level of success as Torn did. What's more, she experienced a nearly career-ending hurdle in the years following Torn. According to ABC News Breakfast, Imbruglia had a serious case of writer's block that lasted years. She took time away from music, became a mother, and came back to music with her 6th studio album Firebird, released in 2021. Chumbawamba struck gold with their 1997 song Tub Thumping, giving life to the classic lyrics. "I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down." The track reached #6 on the Billboard Hot 100 and catapulted to #1 on the Pop Songs chart, where it made itself comfy for 9 weeks. With that kind of traction, it felt as though the band, which had been together since 1982, had finally made it big. However, the endearing Tub Thumping would end up being the band's biggest hit, cementing the group's status as one of the most fun one-hit wonders of the 90s. So what happened to Chumbawamba post-Tub Thumping? They made more music and used their tunes to highlight political and social issues over the years, but as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. According to Rolling Stone, Chumbawamba broke up in 2012. There's no bad blood between bandmates, though, and former lead singer Dunstan Bruce made a documentary about Chumbawamba, which has yet to be widely released.
Not bad for a group of self-proclaimed anarchists from the UK.
90s kids surely remember the grip You Get What You Give had on their stereo systems. Alt-pop rockers New Radicals released the mega hit in 1998, when it made itself home on charts across the globe. You can't help but smile while listening to frontman Greg Alexander sing about not giving up. New Radicals were poised for a breakout career following the success of You Get What You Give, but that all changed in July 1999. According to The Hollywood Reporter, that's when Alexander broke up New Radicals. The reason? He was feeling disenchanted by the concept of celebrity and corporate success. And just like that, New Radicals' bright 90s light was blown out. However, that light was relit in January 2021 when the band reunited after 22 years to play You Get What You Give to celebrate President Joe Biden's inauguration. The song has a special meaning for the president, as it was one he and his family would rally around while his late son, Beau, fought his battle with brain cancer. According to Rolling Stone, Alexander said performing the song was a, quote, huge honor.
So when we heard that You Get What You Give was a Biden family anthem, it felt more radical in a good way than, well, being a Rolling Stone.
As soon as you hear the intro to House of Pain's Jump Around, you know you're in for a good time. The 1992 party hit skyrocketed to the number 3 spot on US charts and charted across the globe. The infectious hip-hop crossover hit had people flocking to the dance floor to, you guessed it, jump around and let loose. House of Pain consisted of Everlast, Danny Boy, and DJ Lethal. They collaborated to create this epic summer hit, but it turned out to be the only huge hit House of Pain would have. The group's follow-up singles failed to chart as highly as Jump Around did, and their 1994 and 1996 albums didn't make waves. And according to Everlast, the group was plagued with personal issues that led to an unhappy atmosphere. He left the group in 1996 and went on to have a successful solo career, while DJ Lethal joined Limp Bizkit, and according to Page 6, Danny Boy battled drug addiction until he got clean in 2005. House of Pain have reunited on and off to play shows over the years, and all 3 members were part of the hip-hop supergroup La Coca Nostra, which Danny Boy and DJ Lethal still perform with. Canadian crooner Tal Bachman took over the airwaves with 1999's She's So High, a catchy pop number that anyone who's thought their significant other is out of their league can relate to. The song reached number 1 on Billboard's adult pop airplay charts in September 1999, and it peaked at number 14 on the Hot 100 chart that same year. Apart from its performance on the charts, the single's music video, featuring a flying girl diving from the rooftops, also helped solidify the song's icon status. Bachman's Ode to Admiration made a powerful impression on late 90s pop, but his other works weren't as commercially successful. He released a second album in 2004, but he's mostly laid low in the years since his 90s hit was released. Oddly enough, She's So High was back in mainstream consciousness in 2019, after it was featured in a Peloton holiday ad that divided the internet. Variety reports that while that ad was going viral, Bachman was in talks with Netflix about creating a show. However, there's no word on the potential program's fate. Alternative rock group Semisonic unleashed a huge 90s hit with 1998's Closing Time, which hit number 1 on the Billboard Alternative Airplay chart in the US and reigned there for 5 weeks. The song, both a catchy way to get patrons to finish their last drink and a metaphor for entering the world, put Semisonic on the late 90s pop rock map. Despite their massive success, it wouldn't be long before Semisonic seemed to disappear off the face of the planet. What happened? Well, according to Entertainment Weekly reports, the band didn't break up necessarily, they just stopped playing music in the early 2000s. One of the reasons is that lead singer Dan Wilson wanted more time to care for his daughter. He hasn't been completely out of the music scene though. According to Rolling Stone, he'd found success writing songs alongside musical powerhouses like The Chicks, Taylor Swift, and Adele. After laying mostly dormant for almost 20 years, Semisonic got the band back together and released a new EP in 2020, bringing that nostalgic 90s pop rock sound to the 21st century. The band is still playing together and, according to their website, they're planning to play some live shows in 2023. 1998's pop folk rock tune Kiss Me by Sixpence None the Richer was the song to slow dance to at any late 90s high school dance. The dreamy romantic anthem wasn't solely a hit with love-stricken teens though. In fact, Billboard named it one of the best songs of 1999, with the single reaching number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. The track also earned a Grammy nomination in 2000. With such a widespread hit under their belts, Sixpence None the Richer seemed poised to dominate the charts with other sweeter-than-pie pop tunes. Their covers of There She Goes and Don't Dream It's Over made some splashes, but they didn't match the tsunami of success that came with Kiss Me. The band released an album in 2002, but disbanded just 2 years later. After a 3-year hiatus, the band reunited and released new albums in 2008 and 2012, but they haven't released new music since. Need a little bit of Monica in your life or a little bit of Erica by your side? If so, turn on Lou Bega's version of Mambo No. 5. The German singer graced us with this hit in 1999, and it delivered, reaching number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 in November of that year, after an impressive run on global airwaves over the summer. It's one of the most iconic songs of the 90s, filled with jazz and mambo riffs that make people flock to the dance floor. The song's global success seemed like the perfect career tee-up for Bega. As it turns out, though, it had the opposite effect. To this day, Mambo No. 5 is still Bega's only chart-topping song. That's not to say that Bega didn't try to replicate the success of the song. He released albums in 2001, 2006, and 2010, but none of their tunes ignited that same spark that Mambo No. 5 did in '99. The albums may not have been massive commercial successes, but that didn't stop Bega from touring and performing his beloved 90s song in front of audiences. Now, you may wonder, how does Bega really feel about his one-hit wonder status? according to Vanity Fair, he had mixed feelings for a long time. But at the end of the day, he's all for Mambo No. 5 and is grateful for everything it's brought him.
They'd be happy for you to get up there and just play that song for 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's an icebreaker. It's an absolute icebreaker. I'm happy.
Alternative listeners got a whimsical breath of fresh air in 1992 with Blind Melon's No Rain, an indie folk track that put the band on the map in several ways. For starters, it was accompanied by a music video that introduced the world to the B-Girl, a sweet kid who became a slight pop culture obsession. And then there was its global commercial success, with the song reaching the #1 spots on several rock charts. The group was already touring, but the success of No Rain and their debut album led to more road time in the production of their sophomore album 1995's Soup. Touring, while great for Blind Melon's promotion, had its downsides. According to Ultimate Classic Rock, singer Shannon Hoon struggled with drug addiction during the band's intense touring schedule and sudden catapult into the mainstream. He tried to get sober several times, but unfortunately those stints didn't stick. Despite Hoon's addiction issues, Blind Melon kept touring to promote Soup. Sadly, during a tour in October 1995, 28-year-old Hoon died on the band's tour bus after overdosing on cocaine. According to the band's website, surviving members of Blind Melon spent years trying to find a new lead singer before breaking up in 1999. Despite their struggle, the group eventually found a new vocalist and reunited in 2006. They released an album in 2008 and put out several songs in 2021. Who knows, maybe there's still another hit somewhere in Blind Melon's future. If you or anyone you know needs help with addiction issues, help is available. Visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP 4357.